college football playoff. We'd like to congratulate Alabama and look forward to welcoming them to the Bay Area. For media joining, we will be transcribing today's call and posting to College Press Box shortly after the conclusion. At this time, please welcome head coach Nick Saban. Coach, welcome, and if you would, please make a brief opening statement.
Well, it's, real opportunity for our players to be able to, play in the championship game again against an outstanding Clemson team. Coach Swinney and his team have had an outstanding year, and being 14-0 and ACC champs, and they got a really nice group of players on both sides of the ball. They're a complete team. In terms of their offense being very productive, averaging 44 points a game and 530 yards. And, the freshman quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, has done a fantastic job for them, all year long. They got great balance on offense in terms of their ability to run and throw, and talented group of receivers. Their defense is, one of the best defensive teams in the country in lots of different categories. And they got a really good front seven, and they're very well coached, and this is certainly a complete team. But again, our team is very excited about having the opportunity to be in the college football, championship game again. This is several years in a row we've had to play, or got the opportunity to play, Clemson, which is one of the great programs in the country right now. So we're certainly looking forward to the challenge.
Great, thank you, Coach. Jesse, we'll turn it over for questions.
If you'd like to ask a question, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, that's star 1 in order to ask a question. We will pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster. Your first question comes from Stephen Hawkins with Associated Press. Your line is open.
Coach, obviously you were talking about what a great job Dabo's done at Clemson. He tells the story about when Tommy Bowden was fired. He was coming in from coach. He kind of regretted that he hadn't taken the job with you that you had offered him. And then he talks about after his second year when he thought he was going to be fired, but then he wasn't, and said it was going to be the best decade in Clemson football. Can you tell me what you saw in him as a young coach, obviously, other than being an Alabama alumnus, and then just the job that he has done in coming through with that promise of having the best decade in Clemson football?
Right. Well, I think, everybody here at Alabama, because Dabo was a player here and a coach here, has a tremendous amount of respect for him. He's really a personal friend that I personally have a tremendous amount of respect for as a coach as well. They've done just as good a job as anybody in the country when it comes to what they've been able to accomplish over the last, decade. In terms of consistency and performance, each and every year. They do a great job in recruiting. They do a great job of developing players, and it's a really, really good program. So we have a lot of respect for him, and that's why we tried to hire him years ago. And but things worked out extremely well for him, and we're happy for him and his family.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Your next question comes from David Hale with ESPN. Your line is open.
Nick, I'm wondering if you can think back to your preparation for the 2015 game, and if you had taken much notice at that time of Hunter Renfrow, and having now played him, about to be for the 4th time, how your opinion of him or take on him or preparation for him might have evolved since then.
Well, he's an outstanding player, no doubt, and he's got great quickness. They do a really good job of using his skill set effectively for what he can do. He's difficult to cover because of his quickness. He's a very crafty, smart player, got great hands, and I can't remember back to 2015, but we thought he was a good player then, and we think he's an even better player now.
Do you find it interesting at all, or is it more commonplace maybe than people give it credit for, that there are guys with that kind of talent that still manage to kind of fall through the cracks in recruiting?
Well, I think that probably even more so now than ever before because of, early signing date, and, what some of this does is for a player who maybe is undersized or develops a little later or has a great senior year. Maybe a lot of programs have already signed a lot of guys, and they're not really going back looking for players like this because they've already made all their decisions in recruiting. And I think it's a little bit of a disadvantage for, late developing players. Not that I know enough about Hunter Renfrow to say he was late developing. I know he was a smaller guy that really worked hard to get to where he is right now, and it certainly paid off for him.
Thank you.
Your next question comes from Alex Byington with Montgomery Advisors. Your line is open.
Hey, Nick. I'm just curious. You've talked about how you tend to focus on looking ahead, not behind you. But in preseason, when Alabama and Clemson are rated number 1, number 2, how much you, even in the back of your mind, anticipate in this matchup coming this point of the season?
Well, I think as the season evolves, just knowing how well Clemson played all year long and how they were pretty dominant, in their league, it was no surprise to me that they would end up where they are right now. And, you're always looking at the next game and not looking too far ahead and all that. But it's no surprise to me that, they're in a championship game as well.
And how much have some of these matchups in the past 3 years really, do you feel like have come down to kind of a single, I wouldn't call it like a trick play, but pulling something out of your sleeve, like the onside kick, things like that, can make a difference in a game like this?
Well, I think when you're playing against a very good team, and you anticipate that it's going to be a really tight game, that you're always looking for somewhere, someplace, in the game where you can create an advantage for yourself and try to put your players in the best position to have a chance to be successful. And I think we do that for every game, but games like this, sometimes those plays can have a huge impact because it's probably going to be a pretty close game.
Thanks, Nick.
Again, if you'd like to ask a question, please press star then 1 on your telephone keypad. Your next question comes from Matt Zenitz with Al.com. Your line is open.
Hey, Nick, I just wanted to see, what do you remember from the recruiting process with Justin Ralston? What have you seen on film from him this year at Clemson?
Yeah, well, he's played, outstanding for them. I mean, he's made a lot of big plays. He's a great vertical threat. He's a big target, very crafty for a guy that is, just a freshman. And, we thought he was, one of the best players in Alabama a year ago, and certainly recruited him with as much enthusiasm as possible. And, we just came up short. And it's no surprise to me that he's having an outstanding year. And, we'd love to have him here, but we got to try to prepare to play against him.
Didn't that come down to very late in the process that you guys felt like you were still in the mix with him? Maybe even like the final 24 hours where it was still up in the air as to where he could go?
I don't really know. I mean, that'd probably be a better question to ask him. We thought we were in the mix, but, sometimes you think that, and, sometimes the guy's already decided what he wants to do, and we knew that the competition was always going to be really keen, versus, Clemson, and, it's unfortunate for us that didn't work out our way.
Thank you, Nick.
Your next question comes from Connor O'Gara with Saturday Down South. Your line is open.
Hey, Nick. Going even back to the recruiting process, do you remember the first time that you saw Trevor Lawrence play?
Ooh, I think it was when he was maybe a sophomore. And, even then, there was no question about the fact that he was going to be one of the best players in the country at his position, and he certainly is that. And he had a great high school career, and again, we try to recruit him here as well, and things have worked out well for him in terms of the position that he's in and the job that he's done for them. And we know he's a fine young man and really a great competitor, and he's certainly proven that over the course of this season.
I'm not sure how much time you've had to watch on film. I know you guys have been traveling, but Is what specifically kind of stands out with his game based on just what you've seen from him, on the field during this freshman season?
Well, he certainly doesn't look like a freshman, that's for sure. He's got a lot of poise and does a really good job of executing their offense, and he's very instinctive in terms of making the reads that he needs to make, and doesn't make a lot of mistakes in terms of where he wants to throw the ball, and he's got a great arm, and he's very accurate. He's got some really good skill players, and they've made a lot of explosive plays because of it. But he's also done a good job of taking what the defense gives in terms of making a read. Sometimes they have great balance, so their ability to run and throw, I think, is what makes them effective, and he certainly does a great job of executing it for him.
Thanks, Nick.
Your next question comes from Trevor Groves with CUTigers.com. Your line is open.
Hi, Coach. First of all, congratulations on another great season. I was going to ask you about Justin Ross, but since that's been covered, I guess I'll ask you. You faced Dexter Lawrence the last couple of years. How much of a loss do you think that will be for Clemson facing him this time around if he should not be eligible for this game?
Well, obviously we have a tremendous amount of respect for Dexter Lawrence. He's probably one of the best linemen in college football, no doubt, in terms of his production and his performance. And he's played really well against us in the past. They've got a great front seven. I know they got a lot of other really good players, and they all complement each other. And they didn't seem, to have a lot of issues last week in the game. Still sort of playing to the standard that they've been able to play to all year long on defense. But we think he is a real special, player, really special person from having recruited him, and he's got a great family, and I'm sure he's got a very bright future ahead of him.
Thank you, Coach.
We have time for a few more questions this morning.
Your next question comes from Steve Moulton with WZZN. Your line is open.
Hey, Coach. How are you today?
Good.
There's already been some questions about some players who missed out on recruiting, but the decision 3 years ago to take Josh Jacobs, I was hoping you could comment on his development and overall his development throughout this season, Coach.
Well, Josh has been a really good player for us, a very consistent player in all phases of the game and whatever he's been asked to do. He's one of our best special teams players, and he's really played well for us all year long, and especially in these last few games, he's had some, outstanding performances. So we've always been really pleased with Josh and what he's been able to contribute, and his contribution has certainly helped us be successful offensively. I think, our offensive staff here has done a really good job of utilizing his talents, and his production has reflected that.
If Christian Miller can't go, could we possibly see LeBron Ray have a bigger role in this game, Coach?
Well, they don't really play the same position, so LeBron has done a nice job for us, and we want to continue to be able to, play him in the role that he's played in, and but they don't play the same position, so I don't think that'll be a factor.
Thank you, Coach.
And the next question comes from Ralph Russo with Associate Press. Your line is open.
Good morning, Nick. Hey, I wanted to ask you, there's this sort of conventional wisdom that the defensive line is probably the toughest position to recruit to, that is just harder to find these great players. Clemson and Alabama obviously have done a very good job of that. What is your opinion on that particular aspect of recruiting, finding defensive linemen?
Well, I do think that most people would agree, whether it's the NFL draft or trying to find guys and recruit guys when they're in high school that have the size and athleticism to be effective in terms of their power, ability to strike, as well as athletic enough to pass rush. And I think it's even more difficult now with, sort of the spread, because there's more, loose plays in space where it requires guys to be able to run and play in space. So I would agree with you that These guys are hard to find, and I would agree with you that Clemson has a really good crop of guys that have played well for them, but that's been the case every year that we played them.
Your next question comes from Marty Smith with ESPN. Your line is open.
Hey, Coach. I'm curious. You're sitting here with 6 titles, potential opportunity here for a 7th, which is just tremendous. And I wonder, when you first started out as a head coach and you kind of looked down the line about what you had hoped to achieve, your most fantastic dream or thought or definition of success, how would you have defined success this deep into your career?
Well, I think that, my goal is always, I define success by, are you getting your team or that particular team that you're coaching right now to play, to their full potential or the capabilities or the standard that they need to play to be, the best version of themselves. That's individually and collectively on all sides of the ball. And that's how I've always looked at it, and that's how I continue to look at it. And, hopefully if you got good enough players and you can, do that, they're going to have the best chance to be successful. And I think as a coach, that's always what you want to try to achieve with your players. And I'm not sure that I've always been able to do that. Some years better than others, some teams better than others. And certainly that's a challenge that keeps us going in terms of what we're trying to do, looking ahead to the next game, to the next opponent, to the next thing we have to do to try to help our players play better.
Thank you.
Coach Saban, thank you again for your time. We look forward to welcoming you, your team, and your family to the Bay Area in about a week.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good day and Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you.